The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to the Avant English presentation, 8 tips for a high IELTS writing score. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, as I said. So far, the poll question, do you practice English writing daily? 25% say yes, and 75% say no. Interesting. Okay, so you definitely um, want to practice English daily. It's like a muscle that you need to exercise. So if you go to the gym and exercise, same thing for the writing. You need to be able to write, and writing requires doing and practice. We're going to go over some tips to help you increase your writing score. But these have to be implemented in your IELTS preparation and every writing assignment that you do, so that each time you write and you get feedback, that you're able to strengthen your writing skills. It takes Writing is an art and not a science, and it's something that you have to, as I said, like exercise like a muscle. And the more that you exercise it, the stronger you're going to be. So let's go ahead and let's look at these 8 tips, and look at them more in depth. So first, on the IELTS exam, you want to make sure that you manage your time wisely on the writing sections. So you have plenty of time to complete the tasks that await you. You also want to make sure that you use the correct structure for writing task 1 and writing task 2, and we're going to look at each of those. Writing, well, you do need the words to write. There's no way around that, and that requires, of course, enhancing your vocabulary throughout your IELTS preparation. Writing within the test limits, practice within the test limits. Make sure, just like for the speaking section, same thing for the writing section, make sure you use a timer at home when you're practicing the essay or writing task 1, and that you practice within those suggested time limits. We're going to take a look at those as well. Number 5, mind your word count. So the word count, very important on the exam. And this also helps you stay within your time limit as well. You don't want to go too far over the suggested or the minimum amount of words that you need. And we're going to give you a suggested word count to aim for. You don't want to write just the minimum, but you don't want to write too far over that as well, because remember, always the time factor. Number 6, 4 steps here for your writing. Think, outline, write, and proofread. And we're going to go through each of these 4 steps and give you some recommendations. Number 7, you want to connect your ideas. Always be connecting your ideas on the IELTS exam, whether it's in the speaking section or in the writing section. You want to make sure that you're connecting your ideas. Number 8, practice writing with a strong English speaker. So you need to work with a strong English speaker. that has a good understanding of English writing, good understanding of English grammar, and also has an idea of what the IELTS paper should look like for writing task 1 and for writing task 2. If not, at least have someone to proofread and read your writing and see if it flows, if you answer the questions, if you're using good vocabulary and structures. Work with someone who can help you improve your writing. This is one of those areas of the exam where you need that one-on-one interaction with someone who's going to be able to help guide you with your writing. All right, so we're going to start here with our first topic, manage your time wisely. Now, before we get started, remember to download the handout, which is a handout for this presentation. It's in PDF there, so you can download it and you'll have it, all of these tips with you so you can use them when you're doing your preparation. So, as you know, the IELTS test is a timed test. Each section has its own time limits. The writing section is usually done with the reading and listening sections. So you have 3 sections in one day. Usually the speaking, as you know, is done either in the morning or afternoon, depending on when you take the main test, or on a separate day. And writing is usually the last task that you will do. And after you've already been doing the test about 2 hours, now you have another hour, and that is to write. So you have to be at your best abilities when you're writing, and stay alert and remember the time factor that you have. Now, if you're taking the online tests, you have a better chance of trying to manage your time, I believe, because you're going to have a timer to help you with the exam. So this is why it's so important to remember to practice within the test time limits when you're at home. So with writing, you want to be direct in your writing. This is going to help you save time, so you have enough time to complete your answer. And number 2, answer all parts of the question. Remember, there's multiple parts to these questions sometimes. Sometimes the essay question wants you to evaluate both sides and give your opinion. Or simply it's the 2 disadvantages and 2 advantages of a certain position that you might take on an issue. But whatever it is, you want to make sure that your response answers all parts of the question. If not, you're going to have a lower score. In your writing, you want to make sure that you have good reasons and examples to support your thesis. And this is going to come in the body paragraphs. This is where you're going to write provide your reasons and examples. Reasons and examples. Same thing for the speaking, especially in part 2. You want to have reasons and examples to help illustrate your point. But this is particularly important in the writing section. Number 2, use the correct formats for writing tasks 1 and 2. As you know, they each have a particular structure that you need to follow in order to provide the answer that they're looking for. Always on these tests, whether it's IELTS or TOEFL, you want to give them what they are looking for. If you give them what they're looking for, then you're going to get the score that you need. So for writing task 1, you want to have an introduction paragraph, but really it's really like an introductory long sentence. It's either 1 sentence or 2 sentences. And you need to ask yourself, what am I looking at? That's the question you want to answer in the introduction paragraph for writing task 1. What am I looking at? And remember, you can have a bar graph, a pie chart, a line graph, a process, or a map. Uh, and not only do you identify what you're looking at, what kind of graphic they gave you, but you want to also give a little bit about the features and details. Are we looking at rainfall in centimeters? Are we looking at the production of widgets between 1995 and 2015? What are the measurements? What are the dynamics here? Make sure that you include that in your writing task 1. You don't want to leave off any information in writing in the introduction paragraph for writing task 1. After you write your introduction paragraph telling the reader what are you looking at, now you need to identify 2 trends. What are 2 trends that you see in the chart or graph or line or bar chart? Or you want to be able, because whatever the 2 trends are here, and this is why you're going to have 2 sentences, and make sure you begin your line with overall, right? Because that's what they're looking for, overall. You're going to talk about these 2 trends in the paragraphs that come up, the body paragraphs that come up. So make sure you only give the bare bones minimum trends that you're talking about. Was there an increase in production between 1995 and 2015, or was there a slight reduction? Because you're going to take those statements and amplify them, enlarge them later in the paragraphs with your information. Now, something I often see students do in this overall paragraph here, quote unquote paragraph, the 2 sentences, is they will say, well, in 1995, 20 widgets were produced. But now there's nothing else to write about if you say that, right? There's no other information that you can add to that. That is a complete statement. There were 20 widgets produced in 1995. That's not a trend. That's just a fact of what's being illustrated there in the presentation. So you want to make sure that whatever you write here in the overall paragraph, that you're going to have plenty of information to support what you say in the body paragraph that you're going to write about that trend. So make sure it's a broad statement that you can fill in the details later. In body paragraph 1, you're going to talk about trend number 1 that you mentioned in the overall paragraph. You want to include information drawn from that chart or graph or pie chart, information that's going to support what you're saying. That's going to support what you're saying. And this is where you're going to probably need what I call the language of approximation. If you've already done a couple of these writing task 1, you probably understand that they on purpose put numbers like in the middle between like 40 and 50, right? So it's not it's rare that you're going to have a pie chart or a graph that's going to land exactly on an even number, right? So you're going to have to say, well, there was approximately 45 widgets produced in 1995, right? We don't really know, right? That it's kind of in between 45 and 50. It could be 48, could be 47. So they love to do this on writing task 1 to make you understand what is this language of approximation, right? Nearly, almost, slightly, gradually, right? These are the type of adverbs that you need to help you describe these trends. And then finally, in body paragraph 2, you talk about trend number 2. Same thing as body paragraph 1. You want to have about 3 to 4 sentences, and you want to make sure that you back up what you say with good facts drawn from the chart. Now, Altogether, this should be at a minimum of 150 words. So you always want to make sure that your word count is great for writing task 1 and writing task 2. Now, writing task 1 is usually going to be done after writing task 2. You're actually going to do writing task 2 first and then come back to writing task 1. Writing task 1 is about a third of your writing score on the IELTS exam. The essay counts more. So a lot of students put a lot of effort into the essay, and then they kind of skimp here on writing task 1. If you're not able to produce an adequate writing task 1 answer, though, or response, it's going to reduce your score. So yes, you want to concentrate probably your IELTS preparation on writing task 2, but you also always want to make sure that you're able to produce a good writing task 1 as well, because if you don't finish writing task 1, or if the response is not strong enough, it's going to lower your overall writing score. So that's something you have to be aware of. All right, now let's look at the formats for writing task 2. So you want to start with an introduction paragraph that contains the thesis statement and the two ideas that you're going to use to support your thesis statement. And then you need to write a transition sentence. So the first line of the introduction paragraph should be your thesis. And your thesis is your response to the essay question and your two ideas or two reasons. Uh, Sometimes it may be multiple things, two advantages, two disadvantages. But you want to begin with your thesis statement with answering the question that they give you. Remember, always the number one grading criteria is, do you answer the question? And I had this same conversation with a student yesterday in one of my classes. They wrote about everything except the thesis. They actually had part of the thesis in the introduction paragraph, part of the thesis was in the next paragraph when they should have been together. So there's no need for introductory lines, the sky is blue and it's a pretty sunny day and the price of China is this, and oh, wouldn't it be nice to have that? Oh yeah, and by the way, here's my IELTS response. No, you want to go directly. Remember what we talked about earlier. Go directly and answer the question. Don't be afraid of answering the question. That's why you're there. So everything that you write on the IELTS exam, whether in writing task 1 or in writing task 2, needs to be counting towards your score, to a higher score. Everything that you write that does not answer the questions that they give you, you're wasting time and you're lowering your score. Followed by the introduction paragraph, you want to have now your standard 2 body paragraphs. Now, there is one occasion, there is an essay question that is on the exam that says evaluate both sides and give your own opinion. Well, in that case, there's 2 sides, so that's 2 paragraphs, and your own opinion, that's a 3rd paragraph. So you would actually need 3 body paragraphs in that case. A little bit shorter than the 2 body paragraph style, but still you would need to be able to address each of those 3 parts of the essay. However, most of your essays on the IELTS exam are what I call 1+2. That is 1 thesis and your 2 ideas. And that means that you have 4 paragraphs: intro paragraph, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and the conclusion. And in body paragraph 1, this is where you talk about your idea number 1. Everything is going to be about this one idea. And remember, you want to give reasons and examples to support why you chose this idea to help support your thesis. You always want to illustrate why. Always include the why in your responses. And also something unique about body paragraph 1 as well. And if you can do this, it's really going to help you on your score. You want to conclude body paragraph 1 with a transition sentence. A transition sentence that's going to link, there you go with connecting your ideas, link body paragraph 1 with body paragraph 2. Now, if you can pull this off, you're going to increase your score immensely on the exam, because rarely do students do this, probably because they haven't not been taught this. But now I just told you. You need a transition sentence between body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. This helps link your ideas together. So a transition sentence looks backwards and looks forward. That's why they often called it a bridge sentence, right? It bridges between paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. So if body paragraph 1 was about oranges and body paragraph 2 is going to be about apples, then you need to write a sentence that mentions oranges, but also looking forward mentions apples as well. And that's why I said writing is an art. It's not a science. It all depends on the ideas of the author. You're in control of this. Whatever you write here, this is your ideas. This is your story that you're telling. And if you can write it with the transition between body paragraphs 1 and body paragraph 2, then you're going to increase your score a lot. Body paragraph 2 is idea number 2. Again, reasons and examples. Reasons and examples all the time. You also want to use connectives. They would call them discourse markers in the speaking section. They call them connectives in the writing section. This is your therefore, hence, thus, however, in contrast, in addition, right? If you want to add information, in addition. Now, you don't want to have these connectives on every paragraph or in every sentence, because no one writes that way. But you want to use them at good points in your writing to help the reader understand what you're trying to say. And using these connectives, connecting your ideas inside paragraphs and connecting your ideas between paragraphs builds the cohesion and coherence, the understandability of your writing, and that's going to boost your score. And then finally, for the standard 4-paragraph essay on the IELTS exam, you have the conclusion. And the conclusion is it's simple, 1 or 2 sentences. You want to make sure that it references the thesis again in your own words, right? You're going to have to paraphrase your own words, and you end your paragraph. Now, you always want to make sure that whatever ideas that you wrote in the intro paragraph, that you paraphrase them in body paragraphs 1 and 2. They are your own words, but now you're going to need synonyms for your own words. So whatever you write in the introduction paragraph, make sure you're going to have good synonyms for those exact terms or words later on in your body paragraphs. Never repeat the vocabulary on the test, whether it's your vocabulary or the vocabulary that they give you. You always want to be using different terms, different ways to express your ideas. Improve your vocabulary. Tip number 3 here. So you need the words to be able to express yourself, whether it's in the speaking section or here in the writing sections. You need the vocabulary. Now, for the writing, since it's more formal, you're going to need what I call regular vocabulary words that you would encounter normally in your reading, and collocations. These collocations are formal that you would want to use them in your writing, and there is a writing grading in the writing criteria grading. There is a space for does the candidate use collocations? And you want to use collocations with have or get or break, or do or make. You want to have these collocations in your writing. So how do you improve your vocabulary and learn some of these collocations? Well, you want to read extensively every day outside of your profession. So I guess most of you are medical professionals, then you'd want to read outside of medicine. Read book reviews, read travel articles, read business articles, read articles about art or culture that are going to help you to expand your vocabulary. Keep a notebook of the terms. You want to be able to remember these words and keep them in a notebook so you can review them. Focus on synonyms and antonyms of words that you learn. You want to be able to, you never know which word you might need. You might need the opposite of a word, and then you would need the antonym as well. So when you learn a new word, try to find synonyms for that word and also antonyms as well. And then, as I said, review the new terms weekly, periodically. When you learn new terms and have them in your vocabulary notebook, review them. It takes 7 times to learn a new word. You need to see a new word on average 7 times before you remember it. And you also might want to, in your vocabulary notebook, write a sentence. Write your own sentence with the new word so you know how to use it. And if you go to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, m-w.com, they give you sentences using that word. So many times the dictionaries today online will give you words showing you how that term is actually used. Practice within the test limits. So we suggest budgeting 40 minutes for writing task 2, 20 minutes for writing task 1. That's your total of 60 minutes that you have allotted for the writing task on the IELTS exam. So when you're at home, make sure that you set your timer and that you stop when it alarms at the 40-minute mark or the 20-minute mark, and don't go any further because you're not going to be able to do that on the exam. So you want to simulate as close as possible at home the situation that you're going to find on the test. And the more that you're able to practice this and produce the writing within these test time limits, the better score you're going to get on exam day on the test. So it's important to know the formats of each of the sections and be aware of the different type of questions that you can receive. The questions you have for writing task 1 with the bar chart, pie chart, line chart, graph, or process or map, and then all of the different type of essay questions you can receive in writing task 2. Mind your word count. Number 5, mind your word count. You want to exceed the minimums by a bit. Now let's take a look here. So the minimum writing task, minimum words for writing task 1 is 150 words. So you want to probably write about 165, 170, just a little bit more than the minimum 150. You want to give them a little bit more words, and you might be able to use those words or need those words to explain the trends that you're talking about. So don't lock yourself into the 150 words. Make sure that you give a full response to the task. And if it requires a little bit more words than the 150, that's fine. Same thing for writing task 2. The minimum is 250 words. Usually 265, 270 is the range of the number of words you want to write in writing task 2. You don't really have much time to write more than that amount. This is about the happy medium of the number of words that you need, but you do want to exceed the minimum amount of words. And you want to make sure that you reach at least that minimum amount of words, or they're going to reduce your score. Number 6, the writing process. Think, outline, write, and proofread. I had a student tell me yesterday, oh, I just started writing. Well, you can't just start writing when you are taking these exams. You need to take time, at least I would suggest about 5 minutes for writing task 2 and a couple of minutes for writing task 1, so since it's a shorter exercise, and think about what is my plan here, because writing is a process and there are certain steps you need to go through to complete that process. And the first step is to think. So use the first 5 minutes to prepare your writing for writing task 2. As I said, a couple of minutes for writing task 1. You need to determine what is your response to the prompt in this 5 minutes that you're taking to think about your idea. Find the key words in the prompt and find synonyms for those key words. Remember, don't repeat the vocabulary from the prompt. And these key words are going to help guide you in your response. And then you want to outline and organize your response. So after you found the keywords, you have an idea of what they're asking. Now you need to write down your response. So you're going to have scratch sheet of paper, pen and pencil you can write with. You want to use this time to outline your response. Now, this is something that has to be practiced. It's not something that you learn automatically. But this will definitely help you to organize your ideas. You don't start writing, you start thinking first. The outline. Let's talk a little bit more about the outline. So remember, you want to give reasons and examples in the essay for your thesis, and this is what's going to help you during the outlining process. Remember, you need 4 to 6 sentences per paragraph in your essay to support your thesis. And if you have, as I mentioned before, the one essay question that asks you evaluate both sides and give your own opinion, then you're going to need 3 body paragraphs and your own opinion. So in your outline, you're going to want to write down maybe 1, 2, and 3 and put down quickly what are your main ideas that you're going to cover in each of those paragraphs, and follow your outline while you are writing out your essay. As you can see, now is the writing part. That's the third step, is writing. Not the first step, but the third step is writing. Now you want to execute your outline. Outline is your plan. Now it's time to follow that plan, to implement your plan. So you want to give them complex grammar structures in your writing. This is exactly right out of the writing rubric for IELTS writing. This is what they're looking for. this is what you need to give them. So you use complex sentences, compound sentences, noun phrases, adjective phrases, the appositive, relative clauses. You want to use these complex grammar structures in your writing. Make sure that every sentence, just like your thesis begins with the introduction, with your introduction paragraph begins with the thesis in the first line, make sure the topic sentence, which is your main idea, is the first sentence in your paragraphs. Write with strong nouns and verbs. Yes, it's good to have adjectives. Yes, it's good to have adverbs here and there. But really, the majority of your writing is nouns and verbs. These are the workhorses of your essays. These are the strong language that you use that are going to support your main ideas and inform the reader about what your ideas are. And finally, the last step is to proofread. So you want to plan for your 40 minutes for the writing task 2, which is the essay. You want 5 minutes to think and to outline. You need 30 minutes to write, and then you want to reserve 5 minutes of your time to proofread at the end. That's your total 40 minutes. And just because, you may be relieved and you may feel a little exhausted after writing the essay, but your task isn't done. If you don't go back and proofread, you're probably going to have mistakes and errors, and that could cost you on the grammar score. So let's take a look at some examples of what you need to proofread your paper for. These are 2 or 3 common problems that candidates have in their writing. One of those is comma splices. Comma, 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 everywhere, a comma. This is when you have 2 sentences and for whatever reason, you don't end a sentence with a period and start the next sentence with a capital letter. Some people just put a comma in between. That is, I don't know if it's acceptable in your own language, but it's not acceptable in English. A comma is only a pause. Think of a comma as only a pause. If you pause, that means you're going to start again. So you can't put a comma between 2 sentences, or you're going to get a comma splice. For example, John likes apples. He also likes bananas. You have 2 different thoughts here, 2 different statements. You need to repair that, and one way to repair that is to use a semicolon between the 2 sentences. Now it's correct. Or, as always, you can stop it with Johnny likes apples, period, and begin with a capital H. He also likes bananas. You can always have 2 separate sentences. But another way to repair this is to use the semicolon. The semicolon. Another mistake that's common is subject-verb agreement. For me, this is the #1 grammar mistake. People forget the subject of the sentence. They grab the nearest noun and create a verb that conjugate or that agrees with that noun. But if it's not the subject of the sentence, then you're going to have a mismatch, and then your grammar score is going to start to drop when you have subject-verb disagreements. So, for example, neither Louisa nor John are studying at the university. However, neither Louisa nor John is studying at the university. This is not a with neither there is no compound subject. It's a singular subject. So you need a singular verb. So be careful of these words. or these constructions. Good construction, but make sure you have the right verb that goes there. The wrong verb tense. Nowadays, computers needed to be upgraded every 6 months. So notice what's in this sentence here, nowadays. Well, now you're talking about the present tense, right? You don't want to have a past tense verb when you are indicating you're talking about today, the present tense. So be careful of the wrong verb tense. Nowadays, computers need to be upgraded every 6 months. All right. So if you have a nowadays or today, make sure it's in the present tense. If it's yesterday or last Wednesday, of course, it's going to be in the past tense. So make sure you have the correct verb tenses. Number 7, always link your ideas and thoughts on the IELTS exam. We brought this up before. Show the relationships between your ideas. For example, how do you add ideas? Use in addition. In addition, silver and gold are valuable minerals. All right, so let's look at other ways that you can connect your ideas on the test. Show contrasts. Conversely, silver is considered less valuable than gold, or in contrast, silver is considered less valuable than gold. Here's a way to show contrast between your ideas. The cause of things. Consequently, silver is considered less valuable than gold. So consequently is a way of showing the cause of things in your writing. Always connect your ideas on the exam. And finally, build your natural English for IELTS success, and that includes writing and practicing your writing with a strong English speaker, someone who's going to be able to critically look at your paper and at least go over it for the proofreading, at least go over it for, do you answer the question that you were given? Have someone, work with someone to help you improve your writing. So use IELTS Prep to develop your flow of the language, right? Flow of your language. I was speaking to a student about this yesterday. The language was kind of what I call it stilted, right? It didn't really flow. It would flow one way and then they would write it and it would flow a different way. This flow is something that you develop as a writer. And this is where writing is an art, again, and not a science. If you can have, as I said, a strong English speaker to be able to review your writing, even better if they're a university graduate who has a very higher level sophisticated English that can review your writing and give you some feedback. Yes, writing is a process, an art, and not a science, like I've said before. And you want to combine grammar, vocabulary, writing, and IELTS skills for a higher score on the exam. So let's recount now. Let's recap what we've looked at so far, these 8 tips for a high IELTS speaking score. So we first began by managing your time, talking about managing your time wisely. 40 minutes for the essay and 20 minutes for writing task 1. Use the correct structures for writing task 1 and writing task 2. Improve your vocabulary, enhance your vocabulary. You need the words to be able to express yourself. And this is going to help you across the exam, not just on the writing test, on the speaking test, but also on the reading and listening test as well. Practice within the test limits when you're at home. Make sure you set your timer. 40 minutes for the essay, 20 minutes for writing task 1. Mind the word count. As we said, about 165 words for writing task 1, 265 for writing task 2, which is just a little bit over the minimum, and should be adequate enough to give your responses. The writing process: think, outline, write, proofread. This may be the most important of all of the 8 tips that we talk about today. If you can get this process down, this is going to help you tremendously in your writing on the test and afterwards as well. Always connect your ideas. Link your paragraphs. Link your ideas within paragraphs. This is going to build cohesion and coherence, and this is going to boost your score. And remember, another way of doing this as well, not only using the connectives like therefore, in contrast, however, but also using the transition sentence between intro paragraph and paragraph 1 and paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. Use the transition sentence to help you connect your ideas as well. And finally, practice with a strong English speaker and writer who can give you some good feedback on your writing and give you suggestions of how you can improve your performance on the writing test. All right. So right now, are there any questions that you have about the IELTS writing on the exam? Is there anything that maybe wasn't clear, or you had a question about writing on the test? Okay. All right. So we were expecting a bit more of participants today, but thanks to each of you who came today to improve your IELTS writing. Make sure that you've downloaded the handout, which is a copy of the presentation, and you'll have these so you can use them in your own IELTS preparation. Stay tuned for more webinars to help you increase your IELTS skills and your performance on the exam. And thanks again for attending today, and have a good rest of your day.